I'm going to be talking about the issue of sexual harassment and sexual assault within the military. Making the decision to join the military is truly an act of selfless service, and there are many young people that make the decision to join because they have the dreams and aspirations of being a part of something that's bigger than themselves. And being a part of an organization that is meant to serve and protect, there's also an obligation that is ingrained into us from very early on that it is very important to protect one another. Your brothers and sisters in arms is what they would say. So, although we are supposed to be protecting each other, there's too far often a breach in that trust and also other failures within the system itself. In the fiscal year of 2022, the Department of Defense said that there was over 20,000 different cases of sexual assault and sexual harassment. Very often, those that are abused and harassed would not come forward for these reports because they're afraid of the stigma and shame behind it and even retaliation for coming forward. There's a serious, widespread problem throughout the military. Sexual assault and harassment is far too common, and it should be something that's completely eradicated from the ranks in its entirety. Those who serve and protect should not have to be fearful over their own dignity and safety while they're serving. There are various different programs that have been put in place, such as the SHARP program in the United States Army, which is the Sexual Harassment and Assault Response Program. And this program is meant to provide training and education in order to facilitate a culture that is going to promote respect and consent. The stigma behind reporting is something that can also bring about more challenges for those that are victimized. There's a fear of retaliation, and even sometimes that they are afraid that their career could even be in jeopardy if they do come forward because of the rank structure. Some of these fears could hold people back from wanting to come forward, and even those who are brave enough to report can far too often be victims of victim blaming and lack the support from their leadership, further traumatizing them. So, why is this going on? What are the causes? Something that's said very often in reference to the military's issue with sexual harassment and assault is that there's overall a culture of silence. That's what they call it. So some of the factors that would contribute to this culture of silence is the military's rank structure. This structure is very hierarchical and it highlights loyalty despite your own best interests. Having people in positions of authority over others opens an opportunity for power to be abused and for victims to feel as though they are powerless. The imbalance of power can make it to where they don't want to speak out and they're in fear of damaging their future career opportunities and their reputation amongst leadership and higher ups. The reporting system is flawed, although they has already went through various forms of reform, as I said, even with the SHARP program. But there are still victims have to report these incidences of abuse to their commanders and other leaders within the organization. And sometimes they're the ones that were a part of the larger systematic issue. So this brings about a conflict of interest when it comes to the reporting process. And victims could also fear that their perpetrators are also within the unit and amongst leadership. So it wouldn't necessarily mean that they would get adequate punishment because they're befriending one another. So what can we do about it? What are some solutions to the issue? Servicemen and women deserve a safe working environment that is completely free from assault and harassment. There are various ways to begin this process of trying to eradicate sexual violence and assault from the ranks completely. We could implement an independent reporting system. So this would avoid conflicts of interest when it comes to reporting incidents of sexual harassment and assault, because it would give us an external agency to oversee some of these complaints rather than having it within the chain of command. making it to where it's not biased. And victims would also be less fearful of having been retaliated against or mistreatment following their reports since it's external. Another thing that could happen is an overall cultural reform. One of the biggest things that would need to happen in order for sexual assault and harassment and all other forms of sexual abuse to no longer be a prevalent issue within the ranks is that at all levels need to actively promote a culture of respect, and training with these issues similar to the SHARP program could be used as tools to assist in changing the culture, because education can be used as a powerful tool to inform and empower service members. Those who've been accused should go through a due process. That's another issue. Another solution to the issue is that soldiers need to be held accountable. They should go through their due process, and their punishment should be reflecting of their actions, and they should be punished according to their actions. By doing this, we'll set a precedent that will deter them from wanting to make decisions, and not only do the perpetrators need to be held accountable, but the people that try to retaliate against the victims should also be punished to the fullest extent. And this would help for victims to feel safer when coming to report and feel protected within the working environment. So in conclusion, sexual harassment and assault is a devastating issue within the military, and it's an issue that's systematic, and it requires reform and action in order to better protect men and women who have sacrificed so much for our country. Sexual violence should be eradicated from the military's ranks, and these men and women deserve to not feel shame and stigma behind coming forward with their allegations of abuse. And there are various areas of reform needed in order for a safe and respectful working environment to be provided for all service members.